From the 22 News Plus studio, this is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of InFocus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. One of my good friends is sitting across the desk from me today because we're talking about museums. Jenny Powers, the Director of Science from the Springfield Museums, is joining me. Jenny, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
I always enjoyed our time on Mass Appeal together, so it's fun to get you here in my new show. So thanks again for coming in and giving me some time. But this was sort of a joint conversation about museums. Jenny and I have talked historically a number of times about museum exhibits,
Yes.
how they come about. It's fascinating to me where the ideas come from, the cost, the construction, the rollout, the target audience. There's a lot of work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's actually really fun to do, but it does take a long time because there's so many different things to consider. So I'm really happy about the exhibit we're working on right now. We do have a fantastic dinosaur at Springfield Museums, you might remember, but we
Absolutely.
are updating our dinosaur experience now. There's 5 parts. We're about to finish part 1, but that is just the first step, and it is completely ongoing. And so there is a auditorium right next to Dinosaur Hall, which was loosely themed before, but the science might not have been spot on. There were a few kind of questionable things in there. And so a couple of years ago, we got to demolish that. Then we were living in just a gray room for a while. And during the time that we were just living in a gray room, our curators came in with me and sat down. And I said, okay, this has to be an extension of dinosaurs. How can this exhibit be an extension of Dinosaur Hall? Teach something new that maybe we haven't been able to fit into Dinosaur Hall. And visitor feedback from the last few years has been they'd like to see, first of all, the most requested dinosaur is Velociraptor. And people really want to see
The most requested is the
Yes.
Velociraptor.
Well, you have to figure we already have the T-Rex because T-Rex
Okay.
would be the most.
Yeah.
would be
Okay,
the
that's
most
what I was
requested. But we already have that. So what the next thing people want is Velociraptor. I'm not sure how many people know Velociraptor is actually pretty small, but I wouldn't even mind a herd of Velociraptors. But so that was one of the pieces of feedback. People wanted to know about dinosaurs that lived at the same time, or animals, not dinosaurs, that lived at the same time as dinosaurs. They want to learn more about that.
It's funny you mentioned that because it didn't even dawn on me till the words just came out of your mouth. At one point in time, it wasn't just all dinosaurs.
It was never just all dinosaurs.
Right.
There was lots of other life happening. And there's actually a lot of confusion when you go to the whole Mesozoic era. What is dinosaurs and what isn't? For instance, one thing that we're featuring in a big way is pteranodons. And a lot of people think pteranodons are dinosaurs. They're not. They actually lived at the same time of dinosaurs. They're also reptiles, so they have tons of things in common, but they are not dinosaurs. So that's one of the lines we chose. But I sat down with Dan Augustino and Kevin Kopczynski, who are both regular Mass Appeal faves, and we kind of hammered it out. They're the curators. They're the expert base. I know what the people want. That's my part of it. I know how to help raise the money. They know what information is most important about any given topic, and narrowing it down is one of the hardest parts. Dan and Kevin and I sat in the empty auditorium for, I want to say, 2.5 hours one day, just narrowing down what should the main overall message be in this exhibit. If you try to cram in too much stuff, people don't remember any of it.
Right.
And so you have to put in enough to get people excited, enough to make them feel it's worth visiting, but not so much that they're overwhelmed and can't remember. So fun facts is a really good way to help people remember things. So we try to break it up into that kind of information. But Dan and Kevin, what they decided was they really wanted it to be about archosaurs. And so,
about what?
Archosaurs.
Archosaurs. I've never even heard of an archosaur.
So archosaurs are animals that are from which descended pteranodons, crocodiles, and dinosaurs. Lots of different animals. I'll go back to this common ancestor. And that idea led us to the idea of featuring exactly those animals. Dinosaurs are all behind the backdrop of evolution. So dinosaurs, as we know now, evolved into birds. crocodiles were these huge beasts, and they got smaller and smaller and smaller. We know smaller animals have a greater chance of survival. And the last line is pteranodons. And pteranodons are an evolutionary dead end. There's no living descendants of pteranodons. So even so, though, within pteranodons, you have these huge 2-story winged creatures that look to us like they would take up the whole sky. And then you have these really, really small ones that, when I think of dinosaur train, I think of the little pteranodons. And so you get this whole wide collection of animals. So I've got to learn so much in the process.
Dinosaurs spanned a very long period of time.
Yes, that's absolutely true. One fun fact that helps me remember about the time is that T-Rex lived closer in time to the iPhone than to the Stegosaurus.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
And it's funny because we think the United States, as we're celebrating our 250th birthday, that is a minuscule drop in a bucket of time, 250 years.
I believe that I have brought in our Podokesaurus holyokensis to show you before, and I believe that alone is 200 million years old at least. And so the idea of celebrating, first of all, in the world, a country celebrating 250 years is an incredibly short time, even for a country.
Right.
Let's look at Egypt and how long that's been around. But yeah, and it's amazing that we're walking along the same paths. Not every path. There's a lot of buildup of soil and, plants and plant life and all these things. But, if you go to Holyoke to those dinosaur tracks, you can walk right along where those dinosaurs walk. It's amazing to me that there's still information that we can live, that we can learn so much about these things that lived so far away from us. It's actually incredible, and it's easy to see why dinosaurs continuously capture our imagination.
Absolutely. We are up on our first commercial break, so stay with us because we've got plenty more to talk about when it comes to the new exhibit at the Springfield Museums, plus how exhibits come to be.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. Sitting across from me on the desk today in the hot seat, Jenny Powers from the Springfield Museums. Jenny, thank you so very much. We're talking about building exhibits and the new exhibit that's at the Springfield Museums, an extension of the dinosaur exhibit that you had. Why the dinosaur? Why not some other science exhibit? Or was there just such a demand for more prehistoric information, dinosaur information from museum goers that you, to your example, you, Dan, and Kevin sat around and said, all right, let's take that idea of more dinosaurs and let's evolve this space into. Is that how it comes about?
That's one of the reasons that we decided on that. Dinosaurs are incredibly popular, and dinosaurs can be used to teach a lot of different things. But one thing that's really special about our Connecticut River Valley is how many dinosaur tracks we have right here.
Right.
Not everyone has that rich resource that we do. And in thinking about the museum as a whole, we're trying to do a lot of local, a little bit of global to make sure that we maintain that perspective, but a lot of local. And so since dinosaurs is such an important thing about the Connecticut River Valley, even back to the first dinosaur tracks identified as such are in South Hadley.
That's amazing.
So it's really important for us to feature that. It's also incredibly popular, and there's a huge demand for it. I think that popular culture keeps that demand in place really easily by all these Jurassic Park movies, the shows, the books. There's so many things. Those things wouldn't be as perennially popular if there wasn't a huge demand for it.
Exactly. All right. So I'm going to switch cameras now, folks, because we're going to introduce you to a new bird. Jenny, what is it?
Well, it's not quite a bird, and I can tell you a little bit why. This is a Paravian dinosaur. It is called
Paravian dinosaur.
in pair, PAR before the word means sort of pair avian dinosaur, sort of avian dinosaur. It's almost an avian dinosaur.
Okay.
It's not quite there yet. And that has to do with the shapes of the feathers and the structure of the body. This is an Anchiornis. And
Anchiornis.
I'm sorry, it's Anchiornis.
Anchiornis.
I'm still practicing this
That's
one.
all right.
Anchiornis. And so this dinosaur does have wings and feathers. As you can see, it still has kind of little hands on the end of its wings. But this dinosaur, even if it's flapping its wings, it would only help it run 10% faster. If it were going to jump, these wings would only help it jump 15 to 20 feet longer. This is
Okay.
not a dinosaur that can fly, not yet. When we get to from paravian to avian, then we'll have flying animals. But this, we're not to bird yet. We're still at the in between stage.
So is this dinosaur, going back to your comment a few minutes ago, would this have been local to New England?
This one, no. This one would not be local. There are some local dinosaurs featured in the exhibit. The first one of these was found in China, actually. And the skeletons that have been found for this dinosaur are plentiful, which is really exciting. There's one other thing about this dinosaur that I find 100% fascinating, because one thing we don't know about dinosaurs is what color were they?
Right.
What kind of feathers did they have? Some have like the long skinny part, kind of like an emu, where it looks almost just like a thread, but it's a feather. Some have the big flushed out feathers like we see on some of our most spectacular living birds. But this one has feathers but doesn't fly. So it's an interesting combination. We know what it ate because of when they were found, it still had pellets in its belly.
Oh, wow.
So they ate lizards, not dinosaurs, lizards, and they ate fish. And this is the only dinosaur we know what color it was for sure.
How?
We know
How
it
do you
was
know that?
black because these fossils were so plentiful. Some of them actually had feathers and tissue preserved with you still have to look at it under a microscope
Right,
and look
right.
at all the cells that make the colors, because you might not be able to look and see the color that
Right.
long.
You're digging a hole and finding feathers.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
But the Chinese scientists did a lot of work and determined what color the feathers actually would be. There are so plentiful, though, that some of them may look a little different. They might not look exactly all like ours. There was some notion about how full is the crest on the head, what color is the crest, what color are the tips of the wings, and all of that. So this is a dinosaur we haven't been able to present before. I want to say there's probably 10 new animals that we haven't been able to present before in this exhibit. But another thing, I think the wing is hiding it a little bit, the front wing, but there's a couple pair avian dinosaurs known as four-winged dinosaurs, because if you look at the back legs, you see it's a little different. There's a ruffle of feathers on that leg.
Yeah.
And so that is something else that's special about this particular species.
That is amazing. And this is going to be part of the new exhibit,
Yes.
and that you guys are building. When it comes to building an exhibit, well, let me ask you, this will be a permanent exhibit.
Yes.
This isn't a temporary. And there's a
Correct.
big difference between temporary exhibits
Yes.
and permanent exhibits.
Yes.
In a number of different ways. Cost, educational benefit, maybe it's a traveling exhibit.
Yep.
So do you and your team come up with, like, why didn't you just make this a temporary exhibit? Or is it, again, kind of come back to the demand of...
It's the demand. And so the dinosaur expansion, it's 5 parts. We have 1 part right now. This is the first new piece, but it's the second piece total. There's also going to be an entryway that's a cave where you come in and you start using all of your senses to learn about dinosaurs right away. There's going to be an exterior dinosaur on the building with some juveniles around it. There's also going to be a mezzanine level added to Dinosaur Hall. I'm calling it the Dino Deck. And so we have the chance to present a lot of information in that much space. And so this is permanent because this is what the people want. When we have a traveling exhibit, we usually get that for 3 or 4 months, and most of those are rented. We do the gingerbread exhibit every winter in-house, but usually the ones in our special exhibit gallery are touring. And so those are meant to get taken apart and put back together 100 times because they go from museum to museum. They are built to really be very tough exhibits because
They're constantly being moved and handled. And
exactly. So this exhibit is also built to be tough, and I certainly hope it will be. But we know that there's more interest than you can fulfill in 3 months for something like this. There are entire museums dedicated to just dinosaurs.
Right.
And so the demand is there.
Very good. We are up on our second commercial break. Got plenty more to talk about. We're back in just a minute.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello, folks, and welcome to InFocus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. I'm excited today because sitting across the desk from me from the Springfield Museums is Jenny Powers. Sorry, Jenny. I got the old Jenny North on my name. And she is the Director of Science with the Springfield Museums. Jenny, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. We've been talking about primarily the newest dinosaur exhibit that's taking place at the Springfield Museums, but also about how exhibits are made, where the ideas come from. And exhibits take years, really, from idea to doors open and people are walking through, right?
Yes, I would describe museum time as being like geological time. It moves very, very slowly. But that's because after you have the conception and you narrow down what you want, you have to have funding.
Right.
That's this wonderful thing. And we were very excited and honored to get an Institute of Museum and Library Sciences grant paid for half of this exhibit. And then we also received some state funding, and we received a number of private donations. Those are the main ways that museum exhibits are funded, government grants and private donors. We're really lucky to have so many supporters of the museum, whether they make, small contributions or huge contributions. We value anytime someone has taken some of their own money and chosen to give it to the museum. We treat that as just a pure honor. It's wonderful. I'm so lucky that we have some of the donors who have donated to this exhibit around and they'll get to see the opening. That doesn't always happen because sometimes people leave us money in their wills.
Right.
But most of these donors are going to get to see this exhibit in person. So absolutely wonderful. And I can't say enough nice things about Representative Gomez, who helped secure $50,000 of state money for this.
That's fantastic. So, I was asking you earlier about dinosaurs specifically, and you said, there's a huge demand from the public to get more information on dinosaurs. And we talk about the lifespan, or not the lifespan, but the span of time that dinosaurs roam the earth. And would you say Tyrannosaurus Rex to the iPhone was a quicker period of time than the Tyrannosaurus Rex to, what was it, the Stegosaurus?
Yes. So Stegosaurus is the first of the hold on a second. Triassic. It's Triassic period. It goes Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, and that makes up, those three together make up the Mesozoic period. So Stegosaurus is much earlier in the Mesozoic period than T-Rex. T-Rex is at the end of the Mesozoic period.
And what span of time is that?
Oh, I want to say that's about 200 million years.
200 million
at least.
years.
Yeah. I don't know exactly where in the Triassic Stegosaurus emerged, but it's at least 200 million years older than the T-Rex.
That is mind-boggling.
But these animals were all continuously evolving. So that's not to say that a lot of dinosaurs didn't have descendants that were still alive. But that's one of the things I love learning about.
And so I when you tell me that, I think about the animals and creatures that we now know that roam the earth today.
Mm-hmm.
Chickens, horses, pickets, pumas, whatever it might be.
Yep.
What will they look like in 100 million years, let alone 200 million, or if they're even around anymore?
Well, there's one thing that we can say helps animals survive for sure, especially because of the cataclysmic event that killed the dinosaurs, is that smaller animals tend to survive more because they have less needs. Obviously, a gigantic T-Rex needs to eat more in a day than, say, a cockroach.
Right.
And so the cockroach is going to survive just because its needs are so few. And so the more adaptations an animal has, the more flexible it is, the more diverse diet, the more diverse living environment, the more likely it is to survive. And so that's why when you look to the past, you see things like woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, and those were hunted to extinction, but they may not have survived otherwise because those gigantic animals just need so many more resources.
Well, I'm trying to think of what's the enormous shark that
Oh, megalodon?
megalodon, right?
Yes.
I mean, you just think of the size of that and what it needs to
Right.
eat on a daily, weekly basis. It
Yes, and I don't know if
can't be sustained for
it
long periods of
cannot
time.
be sustained. No, I mean, a great white shark is huge enough to
Right.
be around me, thank you. But I think what a lot of people don't know, and I actually learned this visiting a different museum, is how much the asteroid that hit near the Yucatan Peninsula affected the oceans of the entire world. So lots and lots of ocean animals died out as well as the land animals at that time. Just think of all
Which
that.
was 63 million years ago.
63 million years ago. So the biggest animals are gone. They're just not here anymore because only the smaller ones could survive.
Wow. Okay. I want to bring up, I moved all right, Jenny, I've already lost the name. I can't pronounce it.
Ah.
What are we calling this thing again?
Anchiornis.
Okay. So I shifted it a little bit so the camera can see a different, so folks can see a different view.
Kind of
And it looks as if on the inside of the wings, you pointed it out earlier, it's got like these little hands, paws, claws, whatever you want to talk about. But that's evolutionary, right?
Yes. Yes. So this animal can grab things. It can scratch things. Its claws in the back are not curled for perching. So this is not an animal that would do a perch like an owl or a raptor today. I actually think the head itself reminds me a little bit of a duck. And I don't know that it's actually related to a duck, but the shape of the head, I love its little beak. It just, to me, it's cute from this angle. So you can definitely see both dinosaur and bird here in this. It has a beak instead of teeth, for instance. There's opposed to the giant T-Rex teeth that can be 12 inches, 12
Right.
inches long. You just don't see that on this animal. So you can tell that we're getting really close to bird here. And of course, a lot of the birds are smaller. That are survivors.
And this particular creature was primarily found in Asia.
Yes.
But it's so unique and so fascinating, which is why it's being added to our museum right here in Springfield.
Yes, and also just because it does illustrate that connection between birds and dinosaurs. The main animal we look to for the connection between non-avian and avian dinosaurs is the Archaeopteryx, and we do have one of those. We both have both a model and we have a fossil of the skeleton going on exhibit. It's getting put up right about now. But it's going to be going on exhibit. So we want to illustrate that that's not the only connection. There's lots of other animals where you can see that evolutionary work happening.
But to your point, evolutionary, I mean, this thing, kind of looks like a mix between a duck and a chicken, but you can see where that evolution comes into play.
Yes, but it would not be able to fly like a duck.
Right.
And it doesn't have the nice duck bill like even some later dinosaurs did. All living birds are descended from theropods, and this is a theropod.
Very good, very good. Unfortunately, we are up on our time, Jenny. I want to thank you so very much for talking to us about all the great things that are going on at the Springfield Museums. A little insight into the new exhibit and how exhibits come about. Great seeing you, my friend. Thank you.
You too.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.